Hello, everyone. Welcome. Welcome to our first Role Model Monday webinar of the summer. We'll give folks just a minute or so to get in. I see attendees joining in now. So welcome, welcome. We're glad to have you today. Happy Monday. Good morning. Wait just a few more seconds and then we'll get started today. All right, let's go ahead and get started. We want to make sure we have plenty of time for you to ask lots of questions to our fabulous panelists today. Welcome to our first Role Model Monday webinar of the summer with a focus on meeting our amazing Women in STEM summer crew. These are 5 undergraduate students who we are excited to have you meet and get to know and ask questions to. For those of you who are engaged in our summer camps and academies, our crew are going to be answering your questions and guiding you through all of those experiences this summer. So we're excited to get a little sneak peek of all of them today. We have a fabulous lineup of Role Model Monday webinars this summer. You can see the schedule there on the screen. We hope that you join us weekly for panel discussions with current students and with our fabulous alumni and STEM role models from our community and our corporate partners. I'm Trisha Berry. I use she, her pronouns. I'm the executive director with Women in STEM at UT Austin. And today we also have Claire Lewis, who's our WiSTEM student program coordinator, and Allie Emil, our outreach program coordinator, helping us with the question and answer part of today. We are going to be recording, and it's recording already, and this will go up on our at UT WiSTEM YouTube channel afterwards, and you can access any and all of this year's webinars as well as those from past summers on our YouTube channel, so please check that out. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing, and I'm going to move us into our panel. And with that, get all my screens all situated here for us. All right. So we're going to kick things off with our fabulous panelists. We're going to do some quick introductions, and then we're going to offer up to start some pre-selected questions that we have for them. And then we're going to take questions from you. So you can see that little Q&A section on your screen. You can submit questions at any time. You don't have to wait till the very end. As we're going along, if you have questions for our panelists, please throw them into that Q&A pod, and Claire and Allie are going to be watching that and helping us ask questions to all of our fabulous panelists at the end. If there's anything that seems relevant at the time where we're going along, feel free to jump in and interrupt, and we can ask at that time as well. So with that, let's start with some quick introductions. So let's hear from our fabulous Women in STEM crew. We're going to hear who they are, where they're from, what they're studying, and then we're going to start with something that's outside of school. What's a hobby or what's an out of school time activity that you like to do that keeps you busy and entertained? So we're going to go in order of those of you that I see on my screen. So I'm going to start with Daisy.
Hi, y'all. My name is Daisy. I use she, they pronouns. I'm from Nacogdoches, Texas. I'm a junior physics and astronomy major, and outside of school, I love attending live music events and concerts.
Awesome. Thanks, Daisy. Hannah.
Hi everyone, my name is Hannah. I use she, her pronouns. I'm from Dallas, Texas, actual Dallas, like I live just a few minutes away from the state fair. I'm currently a rising senior, and outside of school, I try to engage in reading as much as possible. Right now, I'm reading only Black authors, so I've been reading I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings by Maya Angelou.
Awesome. Thank you, Hannah. Victoria.
Hi, everybody. My name is Victoria. I use she, her pronouns. I'm a rising sophomore math major, and I'm from Liberty Hill, Texas. And one thing I do outside of school, I try to spend a lot of time outside, just like in the sun, touching grass, and decompressing from how busy school can be.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay, Gabby.
Hello, y'all. I use she, her pronouns. I'm currently a rising junior human biology major. I'm from Manhattan, Kansas. And I also am a big reader. So recently I've been reading a lot of fantasy, kind of keeping summer fun. So, yeah.
Awesome. Thanks, Gabby. All right, Stella.
Hi, I'm Estella. I was born and raised in Austin. I am a senior ECE major, which is electrical and computer engineering at UT. And then outside of school, I'm really into rock climbing.
Awesome. So lots and lots of very different ways that our WeSTEM crew relaxes and engages in their community and their nature and the music, all the things. I love it. So I'm going to ask just a couple of questions and then we're going to turn it over to you, the audience, because we want to make sure that we're getting your questions answered and that we have plenty of time to do that. I don't want to ask them all the questions today. So let's start though with major choice because each of them are studying very different things. They're all in STEM majors, but coming at STEM from their own different perspectives and interests. And so let's start with your major choice. And, how did you decide on your major? How did you decide on what you're currently studying? And what do you think you want to do with this degree when you move into the future? I'm going to go backwards this time. So, Stella, do you want to start?
Yeah, sure. So I got into my major because during COVID, I thought I got into quantum computing and I thought that was really cool. And then since coming to UT, I've sort of shifted focus and I'm more interested in semiconductors, which is still within nanotechnology and the hardware that is related to quantum computing. And that's what I'm hoping to do in the future.
Awesome. Very exciting. Gabby.
All right. So I choose human bio on a pre-med track because throughout high school I took some like anatomy, AP bio classes, and those really sparked my interest. We went on some cadaver field trips and I realized like, wow, this is cool. Love the human body. So hoping to get into med school in a few years and then eventually, become a doctor, that whole fun.
That's awesome. Not too many people say I went on cadaver visits and thought that was cool. So that takes a special person in human biology to enjoy that. That's awesome. And there's probably some on our audience that are like, that's pretty cool. Victoria.
Hi, so I've liked math like since I was very little. It's always been like the classes I looked forward to the most, and like they never really let me down. So I've always known I wanted to study that. However, career-wise, I'm interested in pursuing research, and so I'm going to start taking sociology classes and hopefully someday work in research for social sciences.
Awesome. I love all the different ways y'all have come into these things. Hannah.
So I am currently in a dual degree. I have American Studies and plan two honors. And so coming to UT, I definitely did not know what I wanted to do. I was a psychology major at first, and so it took a lot of trial and error, taking classes and figuring out what I liked, what I didn't like. And I finally landed on American Studies, which I love. It's essentially like an interdisciplinary history major. And with that, I would love to work in a library or at a museum, and just engaging in archiving knowledge.
Awesome. Thank you, Hannah. So Hannah's is a little bit of a non-traditional pathway into some of these STEM spaces. Daisy, let's hear from you.
Hi, so like Victoria, I also loved math growing up. While competing in Science UIL in high school, I read this really cool physics book. So I decided that's when I wanted to go study. And then when I came to UT, my first semester here, I took an introduction to astronomy class. So I also decided to add the astronomy major on top of it. And in the future, I hope to go to grad school and get my PhD in astrophysics.
That's awesome. So hopefully you heard along the way there that not everybody knew exactly what they wanted to study or what that might transpire to be when they got into college. Those interests that they had in high school definitely helped navigate and at least narrow to get them in the door and off on some pathway. But once you're here, once you're enrolled in college, you have lots of opportunities to add different things, specialize in different areas, kind of twist and turn as your interests and experiences change and grow once you're here. So it's not necessarily a linear path through college or beyond. And we hope that you learn more and see more of that as you experience our webinars all summer. So let's talk a little bit about your student organization involvement. I know we have a bunch of high schoolers that are part of our webinar participant group today, as well as a lot of students who are maybe heading into UT or other schools this fall. And they're probably familiar or have been involved in student organizations in the high school space and may not realize that there's all these kinds of things that you can also do when you are in college. And I know each of you have some very different experiences that you've been a part of on campus, and we'd love to share those with our audience. So can you each share with us about an organization you're participating in, what got you involved with them, and what does that participation actually look like as a college student? What do you do and why do you enjoy it? So I'm going to mix it up this time. I'm going to come to you to start, Victoria.
So I'm gonna go ahead and share an org I'm involved in that's not like career or academic focused. I've been a part of UT's chapter of Habitat for Humanity. This past semester I joined, and that one's been really interesting because, of course, it's like service, and you show up and you help build the houses, which is really exciting. That's what got me interested. I was like, that sounds so cool to learn to use power tools and just help like build houses. But also, one thing I like is that the way Habitat for Humanity works is the people that are going to live in the houses, they also have to do some service hours with Habitat for Humanity. So, a few of the builds that I was on, I got to meet the families that were going to be living in the houses in the future and got to connect with them and hear their stories. And it's just a great way to give back to the community here, and something that's a little bit different than school.
That's awesome. That's a great example. And I love the confidence that probably comes with being able to be part of something new and different, but you're learning some skills along the way. That's awesome. All right, Gabby, let's hear from you.
All right, so one of the big organizations or programs I'm involved in at UT is called You Teach Natural Sciences, and it kind of like fosters any major in the natural sciences to become a teacher. So on top of it being like an organization where we have just like weekly meetings, learning, teaching techniques, and just like hanging out, we they offer classes to actually get a teaching certificate, and you'll just take like one class a semester, and those classes, they're very non-traditional. You go out to like Austin ISD, elementary, middle, high schools, just teaching hands-on science lessons that maybe they haven't seen before. And so that's really fun. Definitely met a lot of my close friends through that. So yeah.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing. So definitely, organizations that can align again with some of those interests that you might have that tie in a little bit more on the academic side of things. All right, Estella, let me come to you.
Yeah, so I'm in an org called Longhorn Racing. It's the biggest engineering organization on campus. If you're currently in robotics or interested in getting into robotics, we recruit heavily from like students who were in that. The premise of Longhorn Racing is that we build a fully usable, raceable race car, and we race it against other schools in the summer. We have three different teams. We have an electric battery powered car, a solar powered car, and then a combustion engine powered car. So among these three teams, we have probably over like 150 students on each team. And it's really cool. We get a lot of funding. We get to work with a lot of different parts and a lot of different companies, but we also do a lot of building. So this is like a weekly, more than weekly commitment. So pretty similar to robotics in high school, like meeting if like not every day, but we do have work days every Saturday or every Sunday, depending on what team you are on. You get to meet a lot of people from other fields, so mainly predominantly like mechanical engineers and electrical engineers. We have some computer science, some business, and some like miscellaneous engineering fields as well. But yeah, it's a really good experience. It's a really good like opportunity to have a really big long-term engineering project and then also get to like see it actually run and race and work is very rewarding.
Awesome. And I think that's another good example of how you can kind of tie in your interests as a STEM major, your STEM discipline, into some hands-on project work that you might not get in the classroom, but you can get it through those student organizations to supplement that learning and those experiences you're getting. That's awesome. Daisy, what about you?
I'm a part of the directed reading program for physics. So I've done this for the past 2 semesters. It's a program that matches undergraduate students with a grad student mentor. So you meet up once a week throughout the entire semester and you're looking into a certain subtopic in physics. It's really dependent on what you want to learn. So you can kind of build it your own. You can read into literature. You can kind of they have a computational physics topic. So you could also do some projects as well. And then at the end of the semester, you present at the directed reading program symposium. So it's a good opportunity for students to kind of learn more about the subject they're about physics outside of class, but without having to get completely into a research group.
That's awesome and provides, I'm assuming, some of that direct mentoring as well, since you're connected with a graduate student. So someone who's ahead of you and where maybe you want to go. So you get some of that additional learning as well. That's awesome. All right, Hannah.
So I am co-president for QT by PACA, which is Queer, Trans, Black, Indigenous People of Color. And we are essentially an identity based org, and we host and plan events which foster queer joy. And so, what that looks like for me is I get to plan this beautiful event called Pride Picnic, where we have like a collaborative mural and we bring out like paint buckets, brushes, markers, everything. We have snacks, and everyone gets to paint and add on to like this outline drawing that we have. And so the commitment of it is like we have to create like a schedule between each other of when we can meet and plan all the details out for the event. And then we host the event. And then that sort of is the way that we go through everything that we do. But it is very fun. We have a lot of like past alumni who come and share their experiences as being a queer student at UT, and what that can look like in the professional world as well.
Awesome. Thanks, Hannah. And I think that's a great example of a couple things. One, you could be a student leader in these organizations. So if you're looking to develop your leadership skills, your delegation skills, your project management skills, sometimes you don't get that in the classroom in the way that you might want before you head out into the working world. And you can get that through student organizations. As Hannah mentioned, she's co-president. And also, these organizations often have these social aspects to them where they are giving you that time to find some peace and quiet and friendship and community on campus in some form or fashion to give you the break from the academics and the schoolwork and the tests and the stress of some of the other things you might be experiencing. So, the student organizations give you all kinds of different experiences. I'll throw it out there one more time to our WiSTEM crew before we move over to our questions from you, the audience. So please, this is the time for you to throw your questions in because I'm going to stop asking them questions for a bit of time and let the questions come from you. But students, our WiSTEM crew, are there any other organization or campus experiences, opportunities that you want to throw out and share that maybe weren't kind of covered in the things that were already shared here? I know many of you are involved in many organizations on campus. Is there anything else that you want to throw out there?
Uh, I'm also in Texas rock climbing, or TRC. So there's both a club and a competitive team. And I really, really like this org because we organize carpools to the local climbing gym. And also the team like travels to do competitions. So it's a really good way to meet like a lot of people outside of your major or within your major and get close to them very quickly. And I think there's a lot of sports or personal interest orgs that are similar to this that are extremely easy to join. Like you can join at any point in the year, and really easy to like build community or find people who share like common interests.
Estella, did you know how to rock climb before you got into this club? Are there people at different levels that join in?
Yeah, so we have like comp kids, like people who've been like competitively rock climbing since high school, and we have a lot of people who started climbing in college. I actually like learned to climb at orientation at UT Austin. At the Greg Gym, there's a very small wall. If you're part of the club, we usually go to a bigger gym in Austin Bouldering Project or Mesa Rim. And as a freshman, the carpools are extremely useful. So I really like that aspect.
That's awesome. So, if you're into sports or curious about sports, these are some great opportunities on campus where you can try things out or get active or stay competitive if that's of interest to you. That's awesome. Any others that people want to share? All right, none of them are coming off mute. Well, we're going to turn it over to Claire and Alex. I think we've got questions coming in.
Awesome. My name is Claire again. I'm the student program coordinator with Women in STEM. So we're gonna read out the questions that you've asked. So first question is from Anika. Is human bio the only pre-med track? Human bio is not the only pre-med track. There's a multitude of majors that can be pre-med, but I'll also turn it over to Gabby to share any insight on that if you have any classmates, friends, anything like that, and their majors who are also pre-med, and just kind of the variety of majors that are also on the pre-med track, if you could share about that.
Yeah, so pre-med's definitely just a label. It kind of like I have friends that are computer science majors that are pre-med. I know some people that are even just like business or liberal arts majors that are also on like the pre-med track. But basically like the one thing like people who want to pursue med school in the future have in common is they have certain classes they have to take. So all med schools have like a list of like classes they require for you to like apply to that med school, and it's just kind of like some basic STEM and maybe even like organic chemistry, some upper division. But no, you can be any major, any college at UT to apply to med school and be on that pre-med track.
So,
Okay, I'll go ahead and ask the next question in the Q&A. Let's see. So Naomi asked specifically for Daisy, what about physics and astrophysics do you find interesting?
So, getting into physics, what really caught me was that physics kind of always has like this. There's so many unanswered questions. There's so many open questions in physics. So we always have something to like strive to understand better. For me, it was really like the mystery we have right now with like quantum gravity. So if you don't know, like we have quantum mechanics and we have relativity. There's these two things we find to be true, but they don't mesh together well. So that's a big open question there is in physics. That's what really drew me in. And then on the astronomy side, what really got me into astrophysics was my professor shared like her experience in astronomy. She talked about how she was able to travel to a bunch of different places, visiting telescopes, and she talked about her experience in grad school. And I found that was something that I really thought was interesting. I love traveling, and I really decided like this was the career path I was interested in. And I also just love space. I think it's super cool.
awesome. So next question. Question for Estella. If someone wanted to join Longhorn Racing, would they need to have taken robotics in high school?
No, not at all. I didn't do robotics at all in high school. When I joined Longhorn Racing, I just thought like the premise of it was really cool, a lot of the hands-on building. There's a pretty rigorous application process for Longhorn Racing. So I think just if you're pretty enthusiastic about it, that does come across. There's like 3 stages of application process for that work. So, um, do with that what you will, but yeah, there's definitely like no limitation for like what you had to have done in high school. I think they do just look at like your potential for like what you want to do or what you want to get out of the sport and how you'll contribute. But I think like true of most orgs in college. Like it doesn't matter what you have or haven't done. Like if you have experience, that's great. But if you don't, like you're here to like learn in the org. Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks, Estella.
Okay, the next question is for any of you to answer from Kristen. What is your favorite college memory so far?
I'll go ahead and share one. One of my favorite memories would probably be at the end of the past semester. We had just finished our physics final, or I was taking electricity and magnetism. So I met up, I had a study group throughout the semester, and we finished our final. We all walked out together and we all felt like we did really good. And so we all went to this Chili's afterwards and we just sat and chatted and had a good time. The semester was over. I think that was one of my favorite things. I got to build this community within my class, and then we finished out the semester well.
Thanks for sharing. Does anybody else have a memory that they'd like to share?
I can share one. So this past like Valentine's Day, me and all my friends, we had a Galentine's, which I know is like very common, but it was just so fun what we had. Everybody brought like a baked good. So I made my chocolate chip and pecan cookies, and one of my friends, she made like croissants. Someone else made like those red lobster like rolls. And it was just a very fun time. And we also did like a PowerPoint night. And so I would say, yeah, that was probably a very good memory. Just a nice little Galentine's with all my friends.
I have one memory that I'll share. This was really exciting. The past year, I was a part of another org, the Reggaeton Dance Club at UT. And one exciting opportunity we had was we got to perform at, like in the winter at Austin, there's the like Zilker like Festival of Lights, and we got to perform there. And that was super cool, especially because the organization had only been around for a year. So it was really impressive. And yeah, I think that's just another example of like, the organizations that are on campus, they're not just limited to like impacting campus. There's a lot that also have impacts outside, like to the Austin community or the Texas community. And yeah, that was a really exciting and special moment.
All right. Any more memories? Okay. If we're good, I'm going to move on to the next question. This is for Daisy, and also Hannah. Has doing a double major had any specific difficulties for you?
I'm, like I said earlier, physics and astronomy double major. The thing about that double major is physics and astronomy at UT are very, very similar. So adding the astronomy major didn't put me back at all. I already came in with a few college credits, so I had most of my core done. So that helped, of course, but it hasn't been difficult at all for me just because the two are very similar. But I know other people in physics usually are the physics math double majors or physics and computer science. And so those are just like a tad bit more difficult because it just depends on like how many courses are similar between the two majors that you want to double major in.
So for me, my two majors are American Studies and Plan 2 Honors. Plan 2 is essentially an honors liberal arts major. There's a lot of like creative writing and humanities and reading type of things. And so for me, it has not been hard to manage both of them. I just have to regularly meet with my advisor and make sure that I'm taking all the classes in my degree plan. Because for me, like, I have to graduate in 4 years just financially. So that does look like taking classes during the summer to make sure that like I'm on track to graduate. But I will say it when you have a double major, I think it's just nice to find something that kind of goes hand in hand, and can work for your specific path and your focus.
Awesome. Thanks for answering that question. A couple people wanted to know advice from any of you about balancing your schoolwork and the organizations you're in and your social life.
I can start with this. I think there's a joke that it's like when you're in college, you can like there's like four things that are important. It's like sleep, social life, school, and like orgs. And if you like really want to do well in any of them, you only get to choose three and you drop one. So I think for me, freshman year, I really sacrificed a lot of sleep. I think that's the worst sleep I've ever gotten in my life. I don't recommend that. I do think learning how to balance your time is really important, especially in college. You're not with your parents. There's like no one to tell you to go to bed early or like to sort of balance your time. For me, I found that I started to like very rigorously use Google Calendar or some sort of scheduling app to like meticulously plan out like my weekends or my free time. Just because freshman year I had a lot of different commitments and I wanted to do everything. So I think just like learning what sort of like scheduling works for you and also learning like what is too much for you to personally handle, or maybe like if you're only involved in one thing and you want to do another thing, knowing like that you need to push yourself more with like the time that you have. I think that's a really important skill that you should learn like on your own, especially like without like the support of like parents. I think a lot of it is just doing it unfortunately like just doing it by yourself, like that's part of life. But I think you'll meet a lot of people who are in the same classes or in the same orgs. So doing things with them and uh, learning how to like manage your time that way is pretty important. Knowing what tasks you should do by yourself or with a group to be more efficient, I think that's pretty important as well.
Thanks for sharing. Does anybody else have any advice about balancing all the responsibilities you have while in college?
Yeah, I'll jump in. I do think it can be pretty difficult, especially your first year with like so many new things and you want to try everything. I recommend probably sticking to about like two orgs is a good amount. And the good thing is that UT has so many different orgs that, you know, some of them like their schedules will clash and stuff, but there are so many opportunities that you definitely can find something that interests you and fits in your schedule. And balancing everything together, like school, orgs, and social life. I absolutely agree with Estella that Google Calendar has been such a savior. Block scheduling is like the best thing ever, and helping make sure that you're not like double booking or anything and you're having time for everything. And definitely learning just how to say no because you cannot be doing everything all at once. You have to learn to say no and figure out what things you want to prioritize. But yeah, you'll figure things out and you'll find your groove and figure out what's most important to you, and you'll be able to work it out.
Awesome. A question specifically for Gabby. Someone asked, what are the best ways to get involved with the biology field early on?
Um, I guess in high school, taking just like AP Bio, if your high school maybe offers anatomy. Besides that, I know one of the big things that really like got me into biology and maybe set like my college application apart was I did a lot of stuff with my student council regarding like hosting blood drives at my school. So that was very fun. We partnered with Red Cross. It was a lot of work, but like being able to like host a blood drive at our school was like a big thing a lot of my science friends and I enjoyed. And just like joining any clubs or like doing camps like this, like there's a lot you can do, and I can put some resources in the chat as well for that. So yeah.
All right. The next one is for Stella. There's a lot of different types of engineering. How did you know the specific one you chose was right for you?
I didn't. I think I really didn't know what I wanted to do until like the summer before senior year when I was applying to colleges. I actually applied to different majors in different colleges. Specifically for electrical engineering, I knew I wanted to do something like with electronics. I did apply like computer science, computer engineering, data science, and electrical engineering, and then like international business and like some random like humanities things to a different college. But for me, I think like I took a course during COVID that was an introduction to quantum computing, and that really interested me. And specifically, what interested me was the hardware, the quantum computing hardware, because that was something that still hasn't been very developed. And I found that very exciting. And I also found renewable energy infrastructure very exciting. So I knew that was more on like the build side and less on the coding side. And then my major specifically is EC, it's electrical and computer engineering. So you get to code and you get to do circuits work. So I had like space to explore both of that. And I thought that would be really exciting at UT. So I think the way I chose my major was sort of I spread a lot of like seeds and then whichever colleges accepted me, and then I chose based off that, which is like is a little bit less specific. I don't know if any of you guys had like a more direct way of finding your major.
Yeah, actually, some other people were asking for any of the rest of you, if they're unsure, if someone is unsure what major they want to go into, what advice do you have to maybe try things out or figure out what they want to study? So if any others want to contribute to that, please go ahead.
I guess I'll take this question because I community really just like picking something and then trying to figure out what I actually liked. So I know there is an option in most, I want to say most of our colleges, for you to come in as like undeclared or like take a little second before you declare your major. And so in that time, you essentially take the classes that everyone has to take in your school, like your core. So that will be like your math, your science, and other requirements that everyone just has to have graduating from UT. So I would focus on those classes as you try to like explore either in orgs or also a lot of college students are just like afraid to reach out to professors, but professors love when you ask them like a question like, how did you get to where you're doing now? Like, or how have you liked doing what you're doing? So I would say try to talk to people who are doing something that you're somewhat interested in to get more of a personalized like opinion and insight into what they're doing. And then I know it's kind of hard, like cost wise, because it's like I can only do this in 4 years. Like I can't be trying to figure, I need to know what I want to do. So I would say, yeah, maybe come in as undeclared, take those core classes that everyone has to take, and give yourself that little cushion of like a year to figure out what it is that you really want to focus in on. And then also, I think figuring out also like your minor and maybe doing trial and error with that because it's sort of easier to change your minor than it is to change your major.
Awesome. So next question is from Elizabeth. Are there any high school organizations that you participated in or wish you had participated in to prepare you for your designated field? And that can be for anybody. Anyone wants to jump in?
So I guess an organization I wish I participated in high school, was I think so they don't have it in Kansas, but I know they have it in Texas, is HOSA. And I don't remember what it stands for, but it's like a competitive kind of like health career profession, like competition where different high schools can go. And there's like different categories for it. And that sounded like really interesting. And I think just like I wish I participated in more like competitive clubs like that, like Science Olympiad, debate, mock trial, because I think it like really just helps you like, I don't know, learn yourself and like learn how to communicate with others, learn how to work together. And I'm also just a competitive person, so I wish I had done more of those clubs.
Did anybody else want to share? Okay, I will take the next question. A couple people asked, do you have any recommendations of classes? And specifically, how do you feel like AP classes helped you prepare for college if they did? And which ones in particular would you recommend for someone wanting to go into a STEM field?
Well, I'll say for me, my high school offered a lot of AP classes, and one of my best friends, she is a biochem major, and she wants to be a dentist, I believe. And she tells me all the time that like if she had not taken AP bio like in high school, she don't like her first like introduction to that class would have been much harder. So I would totally suggest that you take those bios, AP environmental sciences. For me, I took AP English Lit, and that was very, very helpful for a lot of like my writing classes and heavy reading classes because it sorts of gets you into that habit of it. So I would say if your school offers those AP classes, definitely try to take advantage of them. But if your school doesn't offer them, then I would look into like online courses or maybe even a student organization that sort of has that, in the base of it, and is like the focus of it.
Awesome. So next question. Have any of you participated in FRI, which is a freshman research initiative? And if so, what was your experience like?
I personally have participated in FRI. I actually was in FRI and WINS, which is sort of a sister program to FRI. WINS stands for Women in Natural Sciences, and this one sort of goes along with FRI. You have to be in FRI to also be in WINS, but in WINS they help get you into groups of like other like girls in like similar majors and like interests of study, and so that helps you build connections with people in your freshman year that like are going to be taking a lot of the same classes as you. But back to FRI, I had a pretty good experience. I will say that I think FRI is a lot more geared to like the biology and chemistry, like those kinds of sciences, because for the research portion, like being in labs and stuff is a lot easier, or it makes more sense for them. However, there are some research streams that are for other disciplines. There's some robotics streams. The one that I was in was an astronomy stream. There are also some interesting ones in like textile and apparel, and sustainability. But yes, I was able to get into the white dwarf stream, and it was really interesting seeing like a new area of study and seeing what research is like there. And I tried it out. It wasn't personally for me, but I definitely think it was a good experience to expand my horizons and see if that would have been something that stuck for me.
So, the next question for any of you is, what is one of your favorite classes you've taken at UT outside of your major?
I can answer this. I have two. I took the Japanese language course here at UT Austin, and I thought it was really great. It's a 6-hour course, so that means you meet like every single day for an entire semester, and it's just dedicated to the language. It's pretty intensive, but I do think it's much better than a high school language course. It is because it's so rigorous, you do develop like a much better, I think, fluency and understanding. And then a different course at UT that I really liked was I took a Chinese film course. And I don't know, it was just like really fun to like watch movies and then like analyze them for homework. And it was, I think, a really good like break from my engineering courses. Is very different. And it was just like different type of brain work. And I felt like that was like a good, well-balanced semester between my engineering courses and just having something that was like separate from that was built into my schedule because I had to go to class.
Awesome. Next question. Do you have any advice or tools for time management? So if y'all want to share some advice or tips that you have for time management.
Definitely finding whatever works best for you to plan your time out and write out all your assignments and everything due dates so that you don't have to be trying to remember it all the time because you'll be very busy while you're at school, just like jumping around between classes and then going to like catch up with people or going to orgs and stuff. So you definitely need to have somewhere that you can either like write it down on paper or maybe you have something electronic. Like I use Google Calendar. I know some other people that really like Notion, and just anything else you can find that works for you. But definitely having it all written down, organized so that it's like easy to follow and you don't have to like waste time during your day trying to remember like, oh, there's somewhere I'm supposed to be or there's something I need to be doing, but I don't remember what it is. I think that's a really great way to make sure you stay on top of everything.
I think another thing as well is like I know like high achieving STEM students want to say yes to like everything. They want to be in every org, they want to be in every club. So I think like learning how to say no, or just like being able to like just yeah, say no to certain things, and just like you don't need to do everything. Like you don't need to be in every club. Like being in like two clubs is plenty. Like for me, like based on time management. So yeah, just like knowing your own boundaries and yeah.
Awesome. Someone wanted to know, how did you know that UT was the right school for you?
This probably isn't very helpful, but both my parents went to UT Austin, so growing up we would go to the football games, and I was born and raised in Austin, so I was already familiar with like the campus and what Austin as a city was like, so I knew that I would already be comfortable at UT, and their engineering program is also pretty highly ranked and very well funded, so there's a lot of either like school associated organizations or student run organizations that were pretty relevant to like just my life growing up. But I don't know, someone not from Austin can probably expand on this.
So for me, I would say a big thing about UT is there's so many opportunities for research. So that was one of the really big deciding factors coming in is how many research opportunities that UT has, and also location. I'm Nacogdoches is kind of like a smaller town. It also is a college town, but obviously Austin is much bigger. So being in this area is super cool. Like I said earlier, I love live music, so I'm in the live music capital. So it was kind of a choice between like location, what's around in the city, and then also what does UT offer for me.
All right. Well, I'm going to step in because we are at the end of our questions. That went really fast. There's so many questions that we did not yet get answered, but maybe in these last few minutes, our panelists can try to rapidly type and share some resources in the chat or in the Q&A section. I'm also throwing in the chat. We have a Padlet that we set up for the summer. So that's also a place if your questions did not get answered. We're using this Padlet primarily for our summer camp students, our summer camp in-person and virtual academy participants. But it's also for those of you on our Role Model Monday webinars. So you can throw questions into that Padlet. There are different columns for different topic areas just to help make sense of the Padlet if a lot of questions come through. And our WiSTEM crew, these fabulous 5 students, plus Allie, Claire, and I will all be in there all summer answering questions that come about. So please make use of that. It is for you. We want to make sure that you are getting your questions answered. And if we can help in any way or point you to resources in any way, we definitely want to do that. But thank you to our amazing WiSTEM crew. Our day camps kick off this week, and this was our very first Role Model Monday of the summer. We have a lot more of them coming, as we had mentioned. Allie or Claire will throw in the links again in the chat to our list of all of our topics for the summer, as well as our YouTube channel, where we will post not only this webinar in case you want to refer or point other people to it if they're curious, but also so you can find all of the future ones posted as well. So thank you for joining us today. Thank you again, fabulous panelists. Thank you, Allie and Claire, for jumping in and facilitating our Q&A. And we look forward to seeing you at our next Role Model Monday webinar Next Monday, the topic is STEM in sky and space. So if you're curious about astronomy and space and the sky and all of those things, it's going to be a great one for you. We will be adding you and making sure that you get reminders every Sunday as well on our Role Model Monday webinar newsletter, just as a quick reminder. And if you registered for this webinar or any of the future ones, you'll also get a direct Zoom reminder with the links. So watch your emails for all of that. So with that, thank you for joining us today. We'll look forward to seeing you next week and to answering any more questions that you have that you throw into our Padlet. Have a wonderful day. Bye, everybody.